The Netherlands must ban Bitcoin, says Dutch bureaucrat. Yes, people are getting more and more excited about Bitcoin. Some people want to adopt it. Some people want to form their own mining council. Other people want to ban it completely. And why? Why does the head of the Netherlands Bureau for Economic Policy Analysis, Peter Hasekamp, why does he want to ban cryptocurrencies immediately, like right now? You would expect it to be the environmental argument, but instead he's going with the Ponzi scheme, saying that he believes a cryptocurrency crash is inevitable, so the Netherlands should act promptly to avoid any potential damage. For investors and governments alike, the last person to act is the loser. The Netherlands must now ban Bitcoin. Josh Shigala, is he correct? Should the Netherlands ban Bitcoin immediately? Not because of environmentalism or competition with central bank currencies, not because it takes away government's power to fiat and print money, but because a crash is inevitable, i.e. it's a Ponzi scheme.
First of all, you're reading the same news as Crypto Player, obviously, because this is pretty neg. It's pretty down on me. But what a kind of ridiculous thing is that? Because there will be a crash, it's inevitable. Of course it's inevitable. There's always booms and busts in this thing. It's in a price discovery phase. And it's got to find the right price. No one knows what this thing is worth yet. It'll go up or down. But the fact of the matter is, anybody that's held Bitcoin longer than, I think it's like probably, I don't know, 6 weeks. When was the longer than, if you bought it after Coinbase went public, then you're probably still in the red. But anyone else in the entire history, unless you sold at the weird times, if you just held, you're in the green by a lot.
Inevitable. I don't think you know what that word means. Dan Eve, is it inevitable? Is it crashing soon?
I'm gonna just switch things around, and I'm gonna say it's inevitable, because everyone always likes to say that Bitcoin is a bubble. No, I don't think it's crashing. Wait, are we on the Dutch article? Sorry, I got carried away writing messages.
Yeah, the Dutch say that it's going to crash and we should ban it immediately. It's the only safe thing we can do.
Oh yeah, well if Turkey and China say they're banning it, because the Dutch guy gave the examples. He was like, well, Turkey and China banned it. Well, what? But definitely, let's just ban it. What was cool was that a ban failed in 2018, so someone actually did propose it, and it was rallied against. I'd like to think that Bitcoin has a stronger position now than it did in 2018. Because 2018 was on the come down of the near 20K peak in 2017. There was probably a lot of FUD about it then. Let's face it, the infrastructure wasn't anywhere near as integrated and widespread as it is now. You didn't have Lightning. So, countering that part of the environmentalist argument. So I'd say the case is much better for Bitcoin now than it was in 2018. And it always gets better, because when there's a bear market, people keep building. That's the good thing, is that people have faith, like George Michael, and they gotta have faith. So they keep a building, ka-ding, keep it building, ka-ding. Lightning is one of the things that came up. So as long as people continue building, I think that Bitcoin's got a much stronger case to stay around, especially with El Salvador, although not especially with El Salvador, now that you've read the Wikipedia to me, because I thought it was all positive, and I read that and I was like, I was literally face planting. You're like, oh no, he did what? A coup? Oh, a coup. But no, I think at the end of the day, fraud, criminal usages, and financial instability is rife in every other country, in terms of, inflation is financial instability, but a longer scale. And that's why, I think maybe Bitcoin's a lot more popular with young'uns, is that they don't really appreciate how bad the financial crisis in 2007 was, in 2007, 2008. So other people that have been through, things longer, they kind of think, oh, the banks are resilient, but no, they're not. They need bailouts. They need money, funding, and that's from your pockets. Like, it doesn't come from out of thin air. Well, it kind of does. It gets printed. There's an infinite amount of money, as we've seen. But I think also it says that additionally, due to the decentralized nature, they are traded internationally, with authorities having little control over. Whenever they're saying it from the government's perspective, it's like there's no control, and everyone else is like there's no control over Bitcoin. It's two different, completely different sides of the spectrum. You don't want to have one party or a collection of parties to have control over Bitcoin. That's the point of it. You need it to be decided by the masses, and that's the joy of Bitcoin. So whilst Bank of England Governor Bailey says that it's dangerous and it's got no intrinsic value, everyone just needs to DYOR, which is do your own research. And I think that if you look at sources and a varied variety of sources, you'll see that often it's very politicized. It's kind of like people who are against Bitcoin from the environmental perspective will often there's synergies, as it were, between who's against Bitcoin and who isn't. But imagine if the US banned the internet, for example. Like, they were like, oh, we're going to ban the internet. Like, Silicon Valley would be just in another country. It wouldn't have stopped. There wouldn't be a no Silicon Valley. It would be called a different Silicon Valley, and all the trillion-dollar companies that came out of it would be in another country. So you're just losing out.
Silicon Bengali.
Silicon Bengali, exactly. Is that what you said? My headphones are on low. So I think go along Switzerland's route, which is rock Bitcoin, put the infrastructure in. Actually, their take is that if you get licensed and help us fight crime, boom, you're in. That's it. Foot in the door. We'll even help you get visas and stuff. Slightly more legitimately than El Salvador. I'm not saying it's not legitimate, but just read the Wikipedia. And anyway, I'm going to shut up. But ultimately, I think that don't ban Bitcoin, because it's a stupid idea.
Well, it's always more fun when they ban Bitcoin than when they accept it, and it often happens just a few weeks apart. Ben Ark, your thoughts on Netherlands wanting to ban Bitcoin entirely?
Yeah, I just imagine the meeting where they're like, what is this Bitcoin? Can we ban it? Okay, yeah, we ban it, but let's ban the Bitcoin. It's good because it means it's a threat. They're having these meetings about this goofy software, which we've been playing around with for years, because they're worried about it, because they understand it could dent some of their power and grip over their populations, because it gives them an off-ramp. So if you're not happy with your fiat currency, you can off-ramp. And that they're worried about it, they're concerned about it. I mean, if they think it's going to crash and that's what they're worried about, then it's fairly obvious. I mean, if that were a plausible thing to happen, then it's going to take a while for it to happen. Maybe a bunch of South American countries or Central American countries adopt Bitcoin. The experiment ends horribly. Some major critical flaw in software we didn't predict because we weren't using it on scale, and then Bitcoin plummets to zero. That's a ways away. So Netherlands are it's a very preemptive step. No, I think it's good because it means to them it's a threat. It's not because it's if they actually really think that it's gonna crash or it's gonna have any serious problems. But yeah, it's who knows? It's a silly stance. Maybe they just did it for some politicking reason. They wanted to impress some old fuddy-duddies in the corridors of power, so they said something stupid. Often happens.
One thing I love is when, instead of just going out for a blatant ban, some countries just put massive taxes on it, and the headline's like, this could hurt our citizens if you bought this. So instead, we're going to put you in prison if
we're going to hurt you.
Your taxes on it and just kidnap you. It's just, the logic makes no sense.